Hey, welcome back. On my way home, I am Miss Mandy, and today we're talking about building wealth from scratch. I see a lot of videos on YouTube about, how to take $500 and make $5,000, or start with $1,000 and do this with it, or, how to make millions from just $500 in your pocket, those kinds of things. But I needed to know what to do with $0. How do you get from $0 to $500? There are those of us out there who haven't started that journey yet, who haven't got to that point yet where they need to be able, they don't have $1,000 lying around. It's the sad reality that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, even if they have really high six-figure salaries. And if you don't know what to do with your money, you're in just as bad a position as somebody who has no money at all. So I thought this might be helpful to identify a couple phases to building wealth from scratch, the ones that I've seen so far in my journey. Now, I have to caveat this by saying I have not built millions in wealth. I'm not worth $1 million. In fact, I'm coming from the other end of that spectrum. I have lots of student loan debt. I have a mortgage. We've had every other kind of debt imaginable, I think. But we have a negative net worth because of those things. I plan to get there one day, and I know I will because of what I've experienced so far. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's that person who is wanting to go from $0 to $100, not $500 to $5,000. And I think this could be helpful for someone in that position because I'm just a few steps ahead of that now. And that's not boastful. That's just saying I would like to help somebody get to where I am now if they are a few steps before that. So the first phase to building wealth from scratch that I've been through was the phase where I just started, where I had no idea what I was doing with money. I didn't know how to manage money. It was a consumer mindset where we spent and we didn't keep track of it. This is me and my husband, by the way. When we first got married, it was like from when we first got married and we were in charge of our own finances from 2011 to 2016. So that's a pretty good chunk of time. That's 5 years of our lives that we just kind of spent, and our incomes did go up some in that time, but we were both working 2 jobs, and every time our incomes went up, our expenses went up to meet it and exceed it even, because we had, student loan debt, we had medical debt, we had a credit card, we had a loan from a family member, just so that we could make a $350 repair on a vehicle, a needed repair. So we borrowed money for that. And, we've had every other kind of debt imaginable. I think we've had medical debt, we've had a mortgage, we've had a vehicle loan in our past, and thankfully a lot of those are out of our wheelhouse now because we are a little bit more mindful of managing money. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But someone in this first phase, where do you start? Well, I think this first phase is just as important as the others because this is the catalyst. This is what causes you to want to move forward into building wealth. It's what caused me to want to move forward. I mentioned it before. We were on vacation. We were on a cruise that my in-laws had paid for because we couldn't pay for it. And they were kind enough to gift us that vacation. And we went on this cruise, and there's one day we went to breakfast, and my husband answers his phone, and he gets this look of concern on his face. And he says, I'm not home right now. I'm on vacation. I can't do it right now. And it was the credit card company. They called him, and they didn't know we were on vacation, but they called him saying that we were overdue on our payment and that he needed to make it today or it was going into collections. They can be kind of rude. And it made me so mad because of the worry that I saw on his face. And I vowed that day, and I've told this story before, but if you haven't heard it, I vowed that day we were never going to be in that position again. That's when I got on board with Dave Ramsey. And this kind of brought me into phase 2. And phase 2 of how to build wealth from scratch is where you learn how to manage your money. You learn what it is to have a financial education. You learn everything that you didn't know before. And I don't mean that in a facetious way. I mean that you learn how much there was out there that you had no idea existed. I know that's how it was for me. I thought, you earn money and you spend it, and it's simple as that, in and out. And it is not as simple as that for somebody who wants to actually succeed and build wealth. It is a lot more than that. And this is the point in our wealth building journey where I learned really well, and this is kind of my nature, so it was kind of came naturally to me. This is where I learned to reduce. We learned to, handle our expenses. We learned how to hold back in our spending. We learned how to, cut back as much as we could and live under our means, which is an important skill. Now, I don't necessarily think that you should stay in this place forever, because cutting back puts you in a survival mindset. It is putting you in a place where you cannot think of anything but how can I cut back more, and it's never enough. Let me just tell you, I've been there for a long time, because we were in this place from about 2016 to mid-2016 to this past year even. So 2016 to 2022, that's a long time to be in a second phase of anything. But it's just what I knew at that point. I didn't know how to produce, and that, spoiler alert, that's the next step, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I didn't know how to, expand my means. All I knew was how to cut back, and I was good at it. So why not use that to my advantage? But there comes a point where there's only so much you can cut back. And when you reach that point and there's nowhere else for you to go, you get really frustrated and you stumble and you fall. And that's when you start making mistakes on your budget. And that's when it becomes unsustainable for you to live in that way. And it just puts you in this mindset that there's not enough to go around. And that's absolutely 100% not true. I know that now. I didn't know that then, but sometimes that's something you have to learn for yourself, right? So this is the point where you're getting educated. This is the point where we found Dave Ramsey. We followed his debt snowball program for a very long time. We learned how to manage our money through actual cash envelopes. And I'm talking actual physical cash. I would withdraw from the ATM every payday, and I would deposit in cash into envelopes that we kept in our filing cabinet drawer in our little two-bedroom apartment. So yeah, we actually did the cash envelope system. In today's digital world, we did it. But we did the debt snowball method, and that worked really well until it came to our student loans, because we're on an income-driven repayment plan. Well, we paid off everything else. We had our cash flow really up and running because we had paid off everything that had a minimum payment other than these student loans. And let me tell you, this is over $100,000 in student loans we're talking about. And we're on an income-driven repayment plan, so it's not going to get any lower than that. And it didn't feel like we were making any progress when it came to those, and it just didn't work. So we had to switch gears a little bit. And for a while, we just kind of enjoyed our lives. We bought a house, we had kids, we had a lot of life things going on. And I'm a big proponent in, only having so many things going on at once. Sometimes you don't have to have everything going on at once. Sometimes it's good to have everything going on at once, but sometimes you can only handle what you can handle. And that was a point in our lives where we could only do that. We couldn't focus on budgeting because we were focused on building our family, building our lives. We bought our house in 2018, and I was against debt at the time. I was not a fan of it. My husband really had to talk me into it. We really communicated and talked about it a lot before I agreed to get into it. But now I am so, so glad that I did, because we bought our house in 2018. Guess what happened in the years following? Prices skyrocketed. So if we had been saving and saving and saving with that cutback mindset, we would have been nowhere near close enough to buying a house. And we wouldn't have had the quality of life that we have had up to this point in those past 3 years because of it. And, it was that experience that got me to thinking about the next phase. Phase 3 is where you begin to think about production. Like I said, there comes a point where you can only cut back so much, and it's frustrating when you reach the limit of that. Especially for somebody who's really good at cutting back. It's really frustrating to think, I'm living on absolutely nothing, my income's going up, and I don't get to enjoy any of that. And it's still not making any difference in my wealth building. And that's because you're missing a piece of the puzzle, and it's a piece that's not talked about often enough. You have to start producing more, and that could be producing more income as a skilled worker. If you know what skills you have, or you need to further some skills to make more income, perhaps that's something you have to consider. It's very personal, because producing comes from a place of what you're good at and what you love to do. And I was not ever in tune with what I was good at. I was always very timid when it came to what I was good at, because I realized that, one, there's always someone out there that does it better, right? So I realized and recognized that. And two, I think that I was just unaware of what I was good at. I liked to do so many things, but growing up, none of those things ever seemed like something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So where now I am a little more confident in the fact that, hey, I have these skills, and these skills are not something that everybody else can do. I realize now that, the person to the left and right of me may not have the same skills. They're probably skilled at something that I'm completely daft at, like, mental math. I can't do math in my head. Thank God for calculators on my end. But, my husband, my dad is really good at that kind of thing. And while I like to do spreadsheets, there are people out there that despise spreadsheets. While I like to budget, people hate creating budgets, right? So there's skills and interests unique to you, and you have to be confident enough to identify those, and aware enough to identify those. And then you have to figure out how you can use those to make some sort of production, some sort of worth. And what it comes down to is creating value. So yeah, I'm good at spreadsheets. That's what I do for my job. That is the value that it brings. And they pay me for that value. And, I like to garden. Just for a few other examples, I like to garden. So if I wanted to figure out how to create value by gardening, I can think of like 2 and 3 ways. I can think of, I could grow food and save myself money. I could grow food and sell it at a roadside stand. I could grow flowers and sell bouquets. I could grow flowers and sell the seeds that I gather from those flowers for the next year. So here's the thing about that production. It seems like I came up with those ideas so easy, but that's not something I could have done before. Seeing the value in a skill, in an interest that you have, it takes practice. And it's not something that came naturally to me at all. Because I'd just as soon do something for free for somebody than, to have them paid for something. But that's not how wealthy people do it. Yes, they have lots of charities. They contribute to lots of charities. They found charities. And that's for people who truly need it. But the thing is, when you produce something, you can get back the value of that in money. You learn what it is valued at to somebody else. And those people aren't the people who need charity, right? Those people, they don't mind to pay for the goods and services that you have. If I was to go out and, for example, the flowers, if I was to go out and want to pick flowers, I could go spend the time growing or picking the flowers myself. I could do that, and it would be free. Or I could buy it for $10 from the store this week, and it would be a $10 cost, but it would save me, a couple hours of travel time, because there's no flowers out. It's the middle of March where we are, and in Ohio there's no flowers right now for bouquets of that kind of thing. So I'd have to travel. First of all, I'd have to get out of my car and go pick the things, and then I'd have to store them and keep them on the way home and keep them fresh, which is really hard to do. So that $10 is worth the value to me. And like I said, I kind of got off topic, but like I said, it is just a skill you have to practice, seeing the value in what it is that you like and are good at and enjoy doing. Let's see. All right. So just some final thoughts. I think I covered everything I wanted to say. The 3 phases that I identified to wealth building from like 0 to 100 is first you have to have that place of where you came from. And you might be on a different spectrum than I'm on, right? You might have started in the middle of this. You might start where I'm ending up right now. Maybe that's where you started and this video was not that helpful to you. But maybe if you're, back at the beginning where I said that we didn't have any money, we weren't aware of our finances, maybe you're starting there and this will be really helpful to you. Just know that if you're starting way back there, it takes time. And the 3 phases to building wealth from scratch is phase 1, where you start, where the catalyst to your behavioral changes. Phase 2 is where you learn to kind of manage your money and reduce and cut back. And phase 3 is where you learn how to produce. And I think those are all really important phases and that they all contribute something to your wealth building journey. Just know that it takes time. It's really up to the individual person, but it took a lot of time for us. I wish we would have started earlier. There's a lot that I wish we would have done differently, but we are where we are, and I really, truly believe things happen when they're supposed to. Your journey will look completely different from mine. All right, so that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up to help send this video to others and help out my channel. Thank you so much for doing that, and thank you for watching today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.